2022 was a year with a lot going on for gaming. We finally got the Cuphead DLC, which proved just as tough as you'd expect. There was a game where Kirby could turn into a traffic cone, and God of War Ragnarok was finally released. I'm sure I'll get to play it when it comes out to PC in like 10 years. But enough of all of that, here are the top 10 games that I played this year. Tiamisia was one of my surprises of the year, sneaking in with a Bloodborne-esque aesthetic and atmosphere and being an all-round solid Souls-like. You play as a plague doctor looking dude with a bit of a memory problem, so you have to jump back into your past to relive the events and remember the solution to solving the bout of COVID-19 or something that's going around. The combat is fast, fluid, and requires you to damage enemies in two different methods. First with your sword to inflict wounds, and then with your claws to actually damage people. Your claws are also used to absorb weapons from enemies, giving you a massive arsenal of tools at your disposal, some of them fast, some slow, some ranged. There's all sorts of playstyles. Skill points are spent on a variety of skills to make a build to suit your style, and can be reused if you want to switch things up later. The game is rather short, there's actually only 3 areas to explore, all with multiple missions in a Neo-style selection menu, but the bosses are an intense experience, and all provide a unique challenge, even to Souls-like veterans. In Stray, you play as a cat exploring a post-apocalyptic world, attempting to uncover the mysteries of a place deep underground. You can also do cat things. You bump into weird and wonderful characters, helping with their troubles, all while finding information about the past and how the world ended up this way. At its core, the game is a walking simulator, progressing through the game just to experience the story, but there's plenty of platforming, puzzle solving, hidden secrets, and even some combat later in the game as things get more intense. Another fairly short game, but filled with memorable moments and plenty to uncover under the surface. Generation 9 came out in 2022, but it was Pokemon Legends that got most of the plaudits when it was released earlier in the year. Dumped in the past by the Pokemon god himself, you are tasked with proving to the locals that you're worthy of keeping alive. How, you ask? Well, by making the very first Pokédex, of course. With very little battles to speak of, the game focuses on the catching aspect, with multiple catches of the same Pokemon required to flesh out each dex entry. Exploring the open world is made easy with the variety of mounts you can use to traverse each obstacle, while catching will have you sneaking and dodging your way to a full notebook. There are also bosses to speak of, giant powerful versions of Pokemon you have to 1v1 in various ways, and while I enjoyed Scarlet and Violet, it was actually Legends that stuck most in my memory for Pokemon last year. When it comes to choose your own pathway games, few do it quite as well as Supermassive Games, developers of the Dark Pictures anthology. However, their standalone game, The Quarry, was my favourite of its type this year, being long and more in depth than their previous titles. Playing as a multitude of characters throughout the story, you're tasked with keeping them all alive by making the correct decisions when it comes to the crunch. It's the classic horror trope, a bunch of teens at summer camp, staying one more night, have to deal with the locals, and of course the horrors that hide in the dark. Visually, it is one of the nicest games you will see, and while some of the writing is overall cheesy, I love the story and how the decisions all come to play a part in the fate of the characters. The first Blacktail was in a top 10 of mine a few years ago, and the sequel maintains the high quality by continuing the story of Tiamisia and her brother Hugo, who is still afflicted with the curse from the first game. Your job is to escape the religious extremists aiming to use him, the rats who want to eat you and everybody else, and all sorts of other enemies in war-torn France, all while searching for a solution to the curse and hopefully bring an end to your family's troubles. Stealth sections and puzzle solving are the order of the day, and you're given all the tools from the previous game, and more. Your increased armory means there are more combat sections from before, but with allies in each section that bring their own abilities and benefits, it makes each area unique and memorable. Stunning environments and a gorgeous musical score and a grasping story, this is definitely a worthy sequel. I was very hyped for the sequel to Somnium Files, and this did not disappoint. Nirvana Initiative is just as intense, interesting, and funny as the first game. So where do you begin? You play as a detective with an artificial intelligence eyeball, an AI ball. This AI can do all sorts. It can talk to you, scan environments, do Google searches, flirt with you, all the important stuff. But most of all, it allows you to enter Somnium, or dream space, puzzle environments inside people's minds that help you interrogate them and decipher the mysteries of your investigation. With a serial killer on the loose, an underground cult, and missing family members, there are a lot of mysteries to unravel. As you do so, you can go back with the information that you've acquired and continue down other paths until you get all the knowledge required to reach the true ending. If you have an inquisitive mind, love solving convoluted mysteries, or even a fan of the Zero Escape games, this is the same developer. You'll love this. I'm a big fan of the Xenoblade series, and the third installment turned up and for me is potentially the best one yet. 2 regions are locked in a never-ending war, needing to kill the other side in order to extend their lives. This situation though is only the tip of the iceberg, and you play as Noah as he brings together a band of people from both sides to dig deeper to find out the reasons for the war and the real villains behind it all. The story is intense and the darkest in the series to date, with some crazy revelations and classic twists. The environments are stunning, the music is amazing, and the landscape is massive, filled with secrets, special bosses, recruitable allies, and more. The combat is similar to that of the second game, with the addition of being able to combine certain characters together for more powerful attacks and combos. It's really hard to talk about what makes this game so good without spoiling more of the story or the gameplay, but for me it's one of the best JRPGs I've ever played. The simplest way to describe Vampire Survivors is that you start the game like this, and after about 20 minutes it's like this. A simple roguelike with a simple premise. You have to survive as long as you can, which means killing anything that tries to stop you. Each character has their own starting weapon, which auto-attacks, and killing enemies gives you experience to acquire more, as well as supplementary items that you can use with your weapons to evolve into more powerful versions. And you'll need them. As time progresses, more and more enemies appear, stronger monsters will turn up, and eventually you have to face Death himself. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There are plenty of levels, all with their own secrets, hidden characters, weapons and enemies, lots of varieties in the builds that you can use, challenges to amend the gameplay. This game is the easiest to just pick up and play for a few short minutes, and somehow I've put in over 60 hours. Amazingly addictive, and better still, you can pick up the game and its DLC for less than $5. Hades hit the high point for roguelikes in recent years, and it was hard to see if anything would be able to reach those heights again, but Cult of the Lamb did a damn good try. Playing as, you guessed it, a lamb, you are tasked with entering 4 different areas to, one by one, take out the false gods in the name of the deity that has resurrected you. But you won't be able to do this alone. You'll have the help from members of your cult. Recruiting people into your cult enables you to get stronger, learn new abilities, unlock new weapons, and help you face the challenges as you progress through the game. These cult members can just be NPCs in the game, or if you're streaming, they can be people from your Twitch chat, and they can both help and hinder your playthrough. You'll have to do requests to keep them happy, assign them jobs to keep your homestead functioning, and cultivate resources to go towards your armory. The gameplay is simple enough, but the art style is amazing and the bosses provide a decent challenge on the harder difficulties. Some of the most fun I've had with gaming this year. Cult of the Lamb really felt like 2 games in one. If you know much about me, you probably saw this coming. Elden Ring is the most ambitious project coming out of From Software yet, combining the best parts of Dark Souls, Bloodborne and Sekiro to create a masterpiece that is one of the best Souls-likes yet. The open world is filled to the brim with hidden caves, dungeons, secrets, bosses, but these aren't just content filler. Each area will actually give you a new upgrade or weapon, secret, or even just some lore. The areas are amazingly picturesque. The bosses are some of the best I've ever seen, and the pure amount of choice in weapons and magic means there is so much variety in how you want to play the game. I've played through it 4 times with 4 different playstyles before I forced myself to take a break. I've not even begun to touch on the PvP or the multiple endings. There is so much here to do. You'll easily spend over 100 hours if you want to even touch the surface of what is going on. Suffice to say, Elden Ring is my deserved choice for Game of the Year. Thanks for watching, everyone. What did you think of my top 10? Anything you disagree with? Do you have any games that maybe should be there instead? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.